Okay, good morning, everybody. Dr. Gunyon here doing our live Q&A for this week. And we're going to be talking about sunscreen today. We're going to talk about, some three big points here is that, I get a lot of questions about skincare products and things, including sunscreen, especially this time of year as the sun's coming back out and we're enjoying some more sunny weather and spending more time out in the sun. And so I have parents asking me about the questions about healthy alternatives to sunscreen. A lot of people hear about potential toxicities that can come from things that we put onto our skin. And so we've got to be careful about that. So what we're going to talk about today is what are the most important ingredients to avoid that, scientifically, the research, things that have been shown to be problems that can also be hormone disruptors. Also, we're going to talk about what sunscreen ingredients are safe to use and some other strategies, logical strategies to use when protecting your skin. And then what are some safe and reliable sunscreen brands that we can count on? So let's go over that. Now that's what we're talking about. But the why behind all of this, again, is that I think the big question here is that, most like a lot of people that I take care of and I help and I talk to, this bottom line issue is that we know that the sun can cause damage to our skin and potentially lead to, health issues, maybe even like skin cancer. So what is the best way to protect our skin to minimize damage and health issues? So you want to minimize damage and health issues while enjoying our life and outdoor activities, right? So it's all about living a healthier lifestyle. And how do we do that? Because, many people I speak to, they don't want to do the common standard, like the common standard treatment, so to speak, even with sunscreens. They don't want to do the same treatments and have more damaging effects to their body, due to the treatment, so think of that sunscreen as a treatment. So they don't want more damaging effects because of the treatment, and that the treatment's causing more problems than what it's trying to prevent. So there's this balance here. And so we want to answer these questions, right? As I'm preparing for stuff like this, and I'm also thinking of, the things that people talk to me about and I talk with patients about is going over, that, there's different potential toxicities out there in our environment that we're getting exposed to. And so we've got to understand, where are they coming from? And some people have never considered something like sunscreen as part of the problem of maybe why, it's a potential other causative factor of why their hormones are changing, right? So having some awareness around that, I think, is super valuable, right? So we can create awareness, not fear. It's not, hear people talk about fear mongering. It's not about being afraid of something. It's just about having an informed choice about something. And there's a lot of people who are sick out there and struggling, and to have more information like this to prevent more toxicities in their life, I think is valuable, right? So what we're talking about here again is like, these skincare products or, the sunscreens. And when I'm talking with patients, here's some of the things, right? So, we're going over the potential toxicities that, people are exposing themselves to. And, a lot of people know that the skincare, hair care, beauty products are toxic, or there's something that could be not so good about them. And so they've heard about that. And again, maybe they didn't consider sunscreen as part of that. When you look at research reports and statistics that show our levels of toxicity in our modern day life, we have thousands of man-made chemicals that weren't always in our environment. And I think that we need to have an awareness around that again, of how do we refine and redefine our living environments, and to take those things into consideration when you're looking at your health. Studies, you look at the studies, the problem that I love research and I love science, but the problem with that is that it's lacking the individuality to the problem, right? So we're all individuals, right? And when we're talking about toxicities, our ability, or, like the toxicities that we are being exposed to is going to be different than somebody else. Like, you're not living the same exact life as somebody else. Your ability to deal with those toxicities is going to be determined on the health of the internal world of your body. And, you hear about the word detox, and really, like, it's like, your ability to detox the chemicals that you are being exposed to. So what that brings up is that, there's some people who are getting minimal exposures or less exposures to toxicities, but their detoxification factors in their body are poor. And so they have littler or smaller amounts coming in, but they're not able to eliminate them as well. So, and then you got other people who have a lot more toxicities coming into their body, but they have really good detoxification principles happening in their body. So they're able to absorb that a little bit better. And the only way to really figure that out is to get tested. In functional medicine, is that's definitely part of the testing that I do for a lot of people. Is it's not just about the toxicities, it's about your body's ability to eliminate those toxicities. And then, I'm not a fan, based off of science, based off of experience, that you should not be doing these random detoxes. Okay, it's not a good strategy. All right, there's way too many details that are being missed, and ultimately can cause long-term issues. And you might not even consider that, because you read these things about, oh, do a 21-day detox or something, and you consider it more of a healthy thing. And you got to be very careful of that. There's a lot more details that your people are missing, and you got to have awareness of. And I mean, and that's the purpose of doing these Q&As. Is I get questions every week from patients, people emailing stuff in, and this is some of the topics that come across. And I think this is an ideal time to talk about sunscreens. We got to talk about bringing awareness to the common lifestyle factors that can ultimately have a negative impact on our health. And you just understanding toxicities is definitely part of that. Bring awareness to how exposing your body to toxins, even sunscreen, could be part of a reason why you have a symptom and or a condition, right? It's usually multifactorial, and it's usually about not just the toxicity, but how it's affecting your body, how your body's adapting to it, not somebody else's. So there is an individuality here, which is what I was saying about the research. Research is tough because it's more on a general scale. What we look at toxicities, they look at what's what is the level that doesn't show physiological damage. But it's going to be dependent on each individual, right? So we need some reference points. I get that, but we also need more specificity. We can't put it all one size fits all. And that's what I love, again, about functional medicine. We can look at these things, understand these things, and apply it to each individual instead of just some general one size fits all approach. And then, just because it's hit a minimum or it's not causing physiological damage doesn't mean it doesn't have an accumulative effect. And what about the other toxicities that could be coming in too? So what that boils down to, again, is what are these lifestyle factors that we can change, that we have control over, that can improve our life, that we're taking the stress load, the toxic load off of our body. And that's a principle that we can't be healthier with more toxins in our body, right? So we got to understand how to eliminate those and have an awareness and have an informed decision on that. Because I think, again, in this topic, people just do the status quo, like we've always done sunscreen, so what's the big deal, type of thing. Never really considered it. So with that said, these are some of the thought processes when we're looking at sunscreen, why we're even talking about this. And so let's dive in here today, starting to talk about the first question, which is what's the most important in sunscreen ingredients to avoid that have been shown to potentially disrupt hormones. Now, I specifically said hormones because I take care of a lot of hormones, and hormones are your chemical messengers. And if you're being exposed to toxins, those chemical messengers can change. Remember, with hormones too, fundamentally, you have to be able to make them, you have to be able to transport them, you have to be able to use them, and then you have to also be able to detox even hormones out of your body. So there's a whole process that must take place and must be evaluated. But when we're looking at the type of ingredients within sunscreen that are potential issues, let's dive into this a little bit more. So the endocrine hormone disrupting chemicals, the toxicities that you hear about sunscreens is about the active ingredients. And so the active ingredients of sunscreens, they're usually going to be mineral based, or they're going to be chemical based, like UV filters. So the ultraviolet filters, these are a common topic, along with the SPF, like the actual blockage of the UV rays. And that's a little bit more of another topic. So I'm going to focus on these here today with the UV filters. that keep harmful rays from the skin. Each do have a different mechanism of protecting the skin and maintaining stability in the sunlight. So we've got to understand that there's a couple different classifications here, mineral and chemical based. Much of the ingredient concerns are pointed at sunscreens that contain the chemical UV filters, of course, right? So these man-made products, we've got to be careful of. Now, the products that typically are included, there's a group of chemicals that are focused on, and most of these commercial brands will have at least two up to six of these different types of ingredients, and of course they have these chemical names, right? So it's going to be you got the oxybenzone. Now that's the one that comes up the most, I would say. You got avobenzone, octisalate, okay, octocrylene, homosalate, and actinosate with an X in there, okay? And I mean, those are the technical terms for them. And I want you to have an awareness here. And I'm going to give you some resources and references here towards the end about where to find some more information about these so you can dig into it a little bit more. But let's talk about these most common ones. I mean, in the science, these are the things that they're saying, hey, be aware of this. Avoid these in the sunscreens because these chemicals can disrupt your body. They can cause toxicity, disrupt the hormones. And so there's science backing this. And so let's look at this. So the top ones here, I'd say that oxybenzone. Okay, it's a UV filter. Again, the ultraviolet filter filters out the rays of the sun, but in the body, it can also mimic estrogen. Okay, so what does that mean? It's like those are called xenoestrogens. They mimic estrogen. So your body's producing estrogen. These chemicals can make your body think that it's that's estrogen as well. And so that can disrupt the hormones because your body's like, hey, we got too much estrogen. We've got to produce this and that, because one hormone affects another. And so that's what xenoestrogens mean. Estrogen mimicry is that what's the science showed is that this chemical oxybenzone can have mimicking effects of estrogen. Okay, it can interfere with testosterone production and disrupt adrenal hormones. So how does that work? Well, anything that is toxic and stresses the body will affect the adrenals. The adrenals are a place where you produce your stress hormones. Okay, so it can affect those adrenals for sure. And then the testosterone production, when you're looking at hormones, you got to convert testosterone to estrogen. So anything that's kind of an estrogen mimicker, and that's a xenoestrogen, it can also then therefore impact the testosterone. So there you go. The oxybenzone, there's scientific studies, research papers that show that they can mimic estrogen, affect testosterone production and adrenals. And anytime you hit those adrenals, man, you can really affect a lot of different systems. So oxybenzone, big one to look out for. The octinolate or oxtinzate, okay? This is the most widely used UVB absorbing agent in sunscreen, and it produces estrogen-like activity and may also target thyroid function. Okay, it's readily absorbed in the body and has been detected in human breast milk as well. And so can mommies be passing these chemicals through the breast milk to the babies? Yes. Okay, so again, whether it's a mama, an adult, even a man, right? But then you have kiddos who might be not doing so well. They have sickness. They're struggling. It may not seem like a hormone issue at the time. I would say a lot of times it would be something more around gut issues to immune system issues. And what does that look like is ear infections, tonsillitis, maybe some bowel where they're having constipation or diarrhea. But it's going to be more around the ear infections, allergies, tonsillitis. Those are actually immune system reactions. And so if you don't know that, you might just do the standard treatments again of like antibiotics. And yet part of the reason can be because of sunscreen coming through the breast milk to a little baby, right? So again, having awareness and questioning things a little bit more is super important. Your health is your greatest asset, and you got to become your own doctor on this. And that's definitely my intention of teaching you things. So there's a couple different chemicals that we want to look out for. And then the homosalate, okay? So homosalate's another one that really comes up. And it's another UVB absorbing chemical that acts as an estrogen in the body. And so another tip on that homosalate is that in the research too, they talk about, are you also, like, because what happens is people, I think out at the lake or something, and people are putting sunscreen on, but then they're also putting like bug spray on, or I guess even in the mountains hiking, but at the lake, people have usually less clothes on, right? So you're putting on more sunscreen, but then they're also putting on the insect repellents. And then we're getting into pesticides, which is another chemical. But what some of the studies are showing is that homosalate increases the amount of pesticides we absorb through the skin. So now you're getting twofold problem by having those two chemicals together, right? And so I mean, I thought that was a really big one. I didn't know that until I was looking at some of the more of the research here about this today. And I was like, okay, wow. I mean, we know that the pesticides are an issue. Um, and that's another Q&A all in itself. But then when you look at this other chemical homosalate that's typically in these commercial brands of sunscreens, it can increase the absorption of the pesticides as well. So not good, right? So those are the three big chemicals that you hear a lot about. Now there are some other ones. Um, there's like the big six, I would say. But what we've covered here today, for just to create some awareness and some understanding, talking about the big three. Number one was oxybenzone. The next one is, these are a little bit harder to say, is the octasalate or octinoxate, okay, octinoxate or not octasalate, and then the homosalate. Okay, so those are the big three, and so be aware of those. And then again, I'm going to give you some resources here at the end. And then parabens. Okay, parabens are in lots of different products. Skincare, hair care, makeup, but it's also can be found in these commercial brand sunscreens. And so, parabens are definitely well-known endocrine disrupting synthetic preservatives that are found in these beauty care products, including the sunscreens. Okay, so parabens, it can be tricky though, because it doesn't say. You can see products that say paraben free for sure, but the ones that don't say paraben free, of course, in the ingredients, they these companies get some leeway on how they can label it, because people become aware of different products like paraben, so they're looking for paraben, but it's in a different form, right? So what does that mean? Is it the ingredient names could be also like methylparaben, uh, propylparaben, isoparaben, butylparaben. Okay, so at least in those ones, there are the term paraben in it, but it has this prefix on it. And so just know, if it says paraben in there, even with a prefix, you want to be aware of that, because those are definitely well known estrogen disrupting chemicals. Okay, so again, can your sunscreen, can your makeup, can your skincare, your beauty care products be mimicking hormones and disrupting hormones? Yes. Okay, and have an awareness of this, because way too often, again, people are told that it's their age and their genes that are causing the problems, but yet they're every day putting some type of chemical on their skin that could be eliminated. It could be prevented. It doesn't have to be that way, but you have to create awareness first. All right. So here's a big point here too, is we've been talking about the skin and the skin health, what chemicals not to put on there, right? So we don't want to have put obvious toxicity into and on our body. So here's a big point though, a lot of people don't know, is that your skin health is not only determined by what you put on your skin, but also what is happening inside your body, especially your gut. Okay, so your gut is but where about 80% of your immune system lives, basically, with the immune system cells. And a lot of skin reactions are a result of immune system problems. Okay, so what's the point there? Again, your gut is the huge part of your immune system. So if you're damaging your gut, you can actually have skin reactions because of it. And I want you to get that relationship understanding. And you are, I mean, you do have that. I would say that you probably have some type of experience around that awareness, because it could be eczema, right? Itchy eczema on the back of the arms. That's a very common place. You could have hives, right? Who's that? I mean, people have had hives. That's a skin reaction, but it's an immune system, from an immune system cause. How about allergens? whether it's external allergens or internal allergens. In those allergens, you can have this redness and itchiness and swelling of the skin, right? You can have other infections, and you might not be as aware of this as like mold toxicity. And my wife had, and that's a very common symptom that I see with people with mold toxicity is skin rashes, including my wife. How about yeast? There's babies who are born and they have like cradle cap, right? Like that's a skin reaction, that's an immune system thing. They have candida, they have yeast overgrowth happening. Where's that overgrowth typically taking place? In the gut. Okay. And so, what about other things like even more severe, like autoimmune conditions like psoriasis? Okay. Again, that's not a skin cause. That's a skin reflection, meaning like where's the problem is in the immune system again. If you haven't looked at the gut, then you're not addressing root causes. You're just trying to treat the symptom of it all. And something around UV protection and skin protection that you want to be aware of too when it comes to when we're talking about the sun and the gut is cholesterol. Okay, so you need cholesterol to have protective properties in your skin for UV rays and also the synthesis of vitamin D. Okay. And there is this whole world about cholesterol being bad for our bodies. And our liver makes cholesterol. Okay. And your liver is inside of your gut, which is your immune system again, right? So if you're stressing the gut, you're stressing the immune system through chemicals and toxicities like we're talking about today, then you can affect cholesterol metabolism. You can affect your skin's health from the inside out. Okay, so I think that that's a very important point today. Okay, and it's very important to have specific testing for your gut that evaluates the factors that would disrupt, the health of your skin in this topic today. Okay, but there's much bigger factors that gut testing is addressing, and part of that is also hormonal issues. Okay, so that's another topic, but that is very important today to understand that your internal health, especially your gut health, will also have an impact and dictate how your skin health is, and then therefore your ability to adapt to the sun, UV rays, and get the benefits from the sun, but then also be more resilient to the sun as well. Okay. All right. So next topic here is that what the sunscreen ingredients are considered safe. Well, that's where you're going to get into the more of the mineral sunscreen. So they say mineral sunscreen ingredients. Okay. And that's going to be the zinc oxide or the titanium dioxide. So these are mineral based. Both of these sit on top of the skin with little to no absorption. All right. And so it's like a barrier. They work by blocking the sun's rays, not absorbing them. Okay. And they are minerals. And so they are safer. They've never been shown to disrupt hormones. Right. And but there is some concern about them is that you don't want to use them in aerosols, right? You don't want to use those sprays because the inhalation of them into your lungs could potentially be an issue. Okay. Even there's some things talking about carcinogenic, right? So cancer creating. So we don't want to use those spray ones. We want to use the creamy ones that you can put on your skin. Okay. So don't do the aerosols with those, but those through the science, through the research, have been shown to be the more safe and effective, like healthier versions of skin sunscreen. Okay. So again, that's the zinc oxide and the titanium dioxide. So we want to be looking for products with those in it. All right. So those are the things to consider that you want in the ingredients. Other common strategies to protect yourself from the sun, are the logical things, I think. But, there's a lot of product out here, a lot of clothing product that's designed to be out in the sun. They're lightweight, they're breathable, but they do protect you from the sun, right? So there's a lot of different brands out there. I have seen some different like fishing type brands, and they even have like a hood on them where you can cover up your ears. So you want to have some type of clothing, right? And especially like in the intense part of the days, like the midday, and that's where we got to be smart too, is that we want to avoid those midday sun exposures. We want our activities to be earlier in the day and later in the day where the sun isn't at its peak, right? So it's not as intense. The UV rays aren't as intense. You want to be using sunglasses, right, for your eyes. I mean, that's pretty easy, right? Pretty logical. And then have available shade. There's umbrellas to the big pop-up tents, and have those available to get out of the sun, especially if you're going to be out all day, right? And so like you're there in the morning, get out and do your stuff. Midday, you're hanging out in the shade, and then later in the day you can get back out in the sun if you're at the lake or even in the mountains. In the mountains here in Colorado, of course, you're a little bit closer to the sun, and so that sun could be even more intense too. So you got to watch that as well in your locations. And I'm a pretty fair skinned person, and it was I could definitely get burnt, and I got to be careful up more in the mountains. And then I've lived in at sea level, and I definitely was able to adapt to the sun exposures easier at sea level. And so pay attention to that as well, very logically. If you're up in the mountains hiking, typically, again, people aren't doing as much skin exposure because the temperatures aren't quite as hot. Or, I mean, there might be a little more bugs and stuff up there in the mountains as well. So keep it logical, be prepared for those things. The ingredients that are safe and effective are the zinc oxide and the titanium dioxide. Again, you don't want those in the spray. You don't want to inhale them because that could be a potential issue. Okay, so you want the ones you can put on your skin. From there, some other homeopathic type things that you can put on your skin. There is some pretty good research, and I've had experience around even like coconut oil. Coconut oil can help with not getting sunburns. Okay, and you can also mix it with even carrot seed oil, and that has some protective properties as well. When you get into the natural world, the more natural, the more absorbable it is. Like when you put coconut oil on your skin, this carrot seed oil on your skin, you're going to absorb it a lot easier, and it's also going to be wiped off easier. Really, like you getting in the water and stuff, you're going to have to reapply it more, and that's part of the issue is that people don't reapply it enough when you're using more of these natural products. You can research these things. I just want to create awareness again is that, coconut oil has some backing on it. Carrot seed oil, definitely some backing on it as well about helping with skin and your adaptability to the sun. And so you can check those out as well. But as far as like these other things that you can buy off the shelf, the zinc oxide and the titanium dioxide are the minerals that you want to look for. And so there are tons of different brands, guys. And this is where I'm not going to go over the different brands themselves. Here's where I'm going to give you a great reference tool. Okay. And that reference is they're called the Environmental Working Group, and their website is ewg.org, ewg.org. And they're a great resource for really lots of things toxic. Okay. From foods to products like this, like sunscreen products. They have they're dedicated to getting information about product safety, basically, and so they're a great resource. You can find more of the studies, the research behind what we're talking about. But I think it's just sometimes people get too caught up in the research as well. That logic plays is a very good tool as well. Like that the more chemicals that we put in and around our environment isn't going to make us healthier. Okay. We do have options in this day and time in our history as humans to do this over here that's healthier than this over here. And healthier is always going to be more natural, right? Like, let's go back. What I would say is the conceptual, like, look at the concept of it all. And whether in some ways, whether the research is proving that or not, like I think we focus way too much on the research and not the logic. Okay, of course we want the details and the understandings, and I like what's called the mechanisms of action of how, okay, this is how hormones work. This is what these chemicals could do to disrupt those hormones. Okay, that makes sense. But do you need to know all that to say, like, don't put a bunch of chemicals on your skin? No, I think it's more about the understanding, the awareness that we should really emphasize it. We should really value that. We shouldn't just brush it to the side and be like, it's no big deal. People are always worried about what they're putting on their bodies, and they kind of brush it off and minimize it. Where you got to look at the whole big picture. Like if you have 1,000 things that are affecting you, it's not just about the one thing; it's about all of them, right? So it's a matter of how healthy do you want to be, and look at the health statistics. They're not very good. All right. So we got to do something different, or at least I want people to have an awareness and opportunity to do something different, create a different result. Right. So, anyways, coming back to the environmental working group, they have a vast amount of information. They have a great resource guide. They have different links on there that if you go in there and you search for choose a safer sunscreen, you'll be able to find more information about the things that I've discussed today, those different chemicals, get a chance to try to sound them out yourselves. But then it also provides a significant list of sunscreen products and brands that have been evaluated and considered to be safe for use. And, they have ones for like outdoor activities. They have ones for kids. There's some great brands out there. So that's like kind of the catch-22 of living in where we're at right now in our modern day world, is that we have more toxicities than we've really ever had and we're exposed to. But then we also have the most alternatives, right? The most things that we could do instead that are healthier. And it's always this spectrum between, I would say, least invasive, like that's not causing problems to the body, and most invasive that can cause problems to the body, manipulate it. And that's, I think, in summary, part of everything that I discuss is like you're looking at this spectrum of health to disease. What are the things that are leading to and building up to a disease that even if you don't have a diagnosis or a major symptom problem yet, it doesn't mean that you're not on the path to building it. And that's not out of a place of fear. It's just, again, a place of awareness and prevention and application and being proactive. I think that people want to be proactive, but we've been jaded with the information and we don't know what to listen to. Really, you said we're in the information age, and there's just we're starving for the wisdom in that information, and that's what I'm trying to provide to you with all the experience that I have around healthy living over the last 25 years of my life. Okay, so coming back around to that, the bottom line issue here is that we know that sunscreen, or the sun can cause damage to our body, to our skin, and potentially lead to a health issue. So what we want to know is is the best way to protect our skin, to minimize the damage and of having health issues while enjoying a life with outdoor activities, and not allow like the treatment sunscreen and the effects of it to be worse than what we're trying to prevent, right? And I mean, that's really a great summary for all like medications, right? Like there's a benefit and a cost to them, right? And one of the benefits of medicine that I love is it saves lives, okay? But it doesn't make us healthier is a very important point. And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're discussing in these Q&As. That's the point, is how do we minimize damage to our bodies, optimize our health, okay? Optimize our health and have more of a informed decision-making process of how we want to live our lives. And that's really what it comes down to, is choice, right? And being disciplined to those choices, not minimizing that, it's just every once in a while, because there's no such thing as moderation, guys. Your body doesn't know that. It just has to adapt to the things that stress it. And the way that it adapts is actually perfect, okay? And through adaptation and having to be in your body being stressed, that's what it basically accumulates cells, tissues, and organs into problems. They degenerate. Okay, so coming back around, we just want to have more choice. And please get functionally tested. Functional medicine, it is root cause medicine. It should be, anyways. There's a lot of different practitioners out there, but it's about testing to evaluate root causes. And when we're talking about skincare, you definitely want to be talking about the gut, which is a big part of your immune system. And then because we're also talking about hormone disrupting chemicals, you better have complete hormone testing as well. Okay, these are very fundamental issues in testing that aren't being tested, and because a lot of times people again don't have an awareness. So I'm giving you awareness. All right. So let's wrap this up. All right. So remember, I'm going to be doing these live Q&As every Wednesday. If you have questions that you want me to consider or integrate into my list of things that I am planning on talking about on the Q&As, please let me know. You can email me at info@drgunyon.com. You can comment. You can direct message me here on Instagram or on Instagram. I also on YouTube, so you can message me there. It's all good. Okay. Um, if you want more information about even functional medicine and testing, go to the website drgunyon.com. We got tons of information on there. You can see our story, and it's all supportive to help you make more informed health choices. All right. Remember, I also do a Road to Wellness Masterclass every couple of weeks. My next one will be is 2 weeks from now. I think it's June 1st. On my Instagram, if you go to the link there in my bio, you can see when to register for that. I also have produced a gut health e-guide. And so if you'd like a copy of that, you can go into that link in my bio on Instagram and grab that thing as well. And remember, the gut is super important. It's a fundamental health. It's something in health that has to fundamentally be addressed because it affects everything else, and it's not getting tested. Okay. And it's a big problem, including what we're talking about here with sunscreens today. All right. So thank you for being here today. Look out for more information about next week's live. It will be next Wednesday at 8 a.m. as well. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.